more.
So the direction of travel, good then, and now they all get into their private jets and zoom off home, burning carbon emissions as they go. Is that right?
And that is the
That's the hypocrisy of it.
This is the crazy thing, isn't it? Because do what I do...
It's not good enough, is it?
It's not good enough. It's not good enough at all. But you then have to turn around and say, well, OK, how would they have got there? Because they can't cycle from some of these places. Could they have done it virtually? I think having people in a room is very, very powerful. And one of the biggest people, we'll come on to Her Majesty in a bit, one of the most respected people in the world was Her Majesty the Queen. And I know for a fact, because I spoke to various people who were attending COP, that one of the biggest buzzes was the possibility that she might be there. And even though she gave that wonderful message on the screen, it's not the same as actually being in the room. So I do think the best negotiations happen in the room. We are in a changing world where we've got used to doing things on Zoom and other platforms are available. You work on that sort of principle, but being in a room does enable certain things to happen. But I do think we have to get away and to Greta's great capture the headlines with blah, blah, blah. We need to make sure there is action.
Surely one of the most incredible moments of COP26 was when David Attenborough spoke. And that, I mean, I'm not saying it replaces Her Majesty, of course it doesn't, but it was still very special, and it was a seminal moment when everybody came together and really listened to what my children playfully call the nation's grandfather.
Well, he is the nation's grandfather, and the same age as the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen.
True, yeah.
And you listen to some of the speeches, and I have to say, some of it was not so good, some of the speeches. They're very passionate, I believe what they say, but they're not used to presenting. As soon as Sir David gets up, everybody listens. And I think when he shows those dramatic images of what's happening to the world, people do listen. But the niceties, and I think everybody's already bought into it, as nice as it was, and there's all sorts of parades and people dressing up in glorious outfits and things like that, people bought into that already. The effect is, how are you going to drive them to make a change? So I think you're already on the guilt trip. The nation's already there. They're already saying, look, 1.5 is still alive, but it's on a respirator. Hanging by a shoestring.
I mean, Andrew, was it even worth it, really? I mean, we're talking over 2 weeks. The summit cost £100 million, 30,000 visitors, as we say, coming over on private jets. I mean, the carbon emissions from that alone would have been stark. I mean, we had the COP26 president in tears, apologising for how little, really, they'd achieved. Would you say this is even a success at all? Or is
I think it depends on how you measure success. I think, like a lot of things, you have to work out what was the target. It was unrealistic to think that we would get everybody to say, here's the solution, we're all going to do it, here's lots of money, because there's lots of other questions. The great things that came out is they're going to continue talking. I know it's blah, 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 but you need now to put the devil is in the detail. So you put the relevant details in. What's going to happen? How are we going to get to 1.5? How are we going to start reversing that? Because it's not about net to zero. We actually have to reverse it. It has to go below zero because we've already got lots of damage.